Midnight. July 10th, 1856. The sky over the tiny village of Smiljan, in the forgotten reaches of the Austrian Empire, was tearing itself apart. A lightning storm of unprecedented fury battered the earth. In that exact moment, amidst the howling wind and blinding flashes, a child was born. Looking at the violent sky, the terrified midwife gasped, "He will be a child of darkness, born under an omen of doom." But the mother, wiping the sweat from her brow, looked at her newborn and replied softly, "No, he will be a child." The mother did not know that her words would rewrite human destiny. This child did not come to light up a room. He came to drag the entire human race out of the age of candles and oil lamps into the age of global electricity and automation. He is the man who invented the 20th century, the wizard who tamed the lightning, the genius who died penniless and alone while the entire world feasted on the fruits of his mind. This is the story of Nikola Tesla. Nikola Tesla was born into a house of words and mechanisms. His father, Milutin, was an Orthodox priest, a man of immense eloquence who memorized entire books and prayed his son would follow him into the priesthood. His mother, Duka, was illiterate, never learning to read or write, but she possessed a photographic memory and a rare gift for inventing intricate mechanical household tools. From his mother, Nikola inherited the exact genetic blueprints that would become both his ultimate superpower and his lifelong psychological curse. At just 3 years old, while petting his cat, Macaque, something impossible happened. The cat's back became a sheet of light in the dimming room. Terrified yet mesmerized, Nikola asked his father, "What is this?" His father replied, "That is electricity, the very same thing you see in the lightning during storms." From that precise second, an obsessive, burning question took root in the boy's mind. Is nature nothing but a giant cat? And if so, who is stroking its back to release the light? But genius always demands a terrifying tax. By his teenage years, Tesla began suffering from a severe, almost maddening psychological phenomenon, active visual hallucinations. Whenever the name of an object or a machine was mentioned, it would manifest before his eyes in the air, completely solid, with mathematical precision. He did not need blueprints. He did not need paper, pencils, or wooden prototypes. Tesla built his inventions entirely inside the laboratory of his own mind. He would turn them on, let them run for weeks in his imagination, and then recall them to examine which parts had suffered the most wear and tear. In 1875, Tesla entered Graz University. He was a machine of intellect, studying 20 hours a day, sleeping barely 2, and memorizing entire libraries. It was there that he faced his first great wall, the direct current dynamo. The machine was loud, inefficient, and threw violent sparks from its commutators, losing massive amounts of energy. The young student stood up and challenged his world-renowned professor, Jacques Puschel, saying, "We can eliminate these sparks. We can make the current flow in alternating waves." Alternating current. Puschel stopped the laughed and humiliated Tesla before his peers. "Mr. Tesla may achieve great things, but he will never do this. It would be like converting a constant pulling force into a continuous circular motion. It is an absolute impossibility." For years, the word impossible haunted him. Until one afternoon in 1882, while walking through a park in Budapest, the answer struck him like a thunderbolt from a clear sky. Tesla froze. He grabbed a stick and began drawing in the dust what would become the holy grail of modern engineering, the induction motor. He had solved the riddle that had defeated the world's greatest scientists. By utilizing a rotating magnetic field, he proved that alternating current could power the world. It was the golden key to the future. But Europe was too small for Tesla's grand design. It was a continent choked by tradition and slow bureaucracies. He needed the raw, industrial frontier of the new world. In 1884, he packed his bags for America. The journey was a disaster. He was robbed on the train, losing his money, his luggage, and his tickets. When he finally stepped onto the docks of New York, he had exactly 4 cents in his pocket, a book of his own poems, and a single letter of introduction addressed to the uncrowned king of electricity, Thomas Alva Edison. When Nikola Tesla stepped off the boat into the heart of Manhattan, he did not find the futuristic paradise he had envisioned. He found a city choking on its own industrial growth. The sky was literally strangled by Thomas Edison's direct current DC dollars wires, thick, heavy cables that frequently snapped, showering the crowded streets below with lethal blue sparks. Through this loud, chaotic labyrinth walked Tesla, tall, gaunt, with 4 cents in his pocket and a burning mind, searching for a single address, the Edison Machine Works. The meeting between these two men was a collision of 2 entirely different universes. Thomas Edison was the ultimate pragmatist, a self-made American mogul who believed only in trial and error, a businessman who measured the value of an invention purely by the dollars it generated. Nikola Tesla was a visionary, a scientific romantic who built flawless machines in his mind before ever touching a piece of metal. Edison tore open the letter from his European manager, Charles Batchelor. He read a single striking sentence. "I know 2 great men in this world. 40 years from now, one will be you, and the other is this young man standing before you." Tesla did not sleep for a single second. He spent the entire night completely re-engineering Edison's broken dynamos from scratch. At dawn, when he met Edison on the street, Tesla bowed slightly and said calmly, "Sir, the Oregon is ready to sail." Edison was stunned into absolute silence. He walked away, muttering to his assistants, "This damn Swede is a better man than I thought." Tesla was immediately given the position of lead engineer, but this brilliant success was nothing more than a beautifully laid trap. Edison's entire financial empire was built on direct current. But DC had a fatal physical limitation. It could not travel. Because the voltage could not be easily raised or lowered, it died out over short distances. Edison knew his system was inefficient. He turned to his brilliant new engineer and made a desperate proposition. "Tesla," Edison said, "if you can completely redesign my inefficient 24 types of standard dynamos and vastly improve their output, I will give you a bonus of $50,000. For Tesla, $50,000 was an astronomical fortune. It was the capital he needed to build his own independent laboratory and bring his ultimate dream to life, alternating current. He gave his heart and soul to the task, saving Edison's company massive amounts of money and production costs while skyrocketing their efficiency. When the job was flawlessly completed, Tesla walked into Edison's office and asked for his hard-earned bonus. Edison's response was a cold, mocking slap in the face. In that exact second, the illusion shattered. Tesla refused the $10 raise, and he refused to sell his self-respect. He resigned on the spot. But the streets of New York in the winter of 1885 were brutal for a penniless immigrant. With no job and a blacklisted name, the brilliant engineer who had just redesigned the electrical grid of New York was forced into brutal, back-breaking manual labor. For a year, Tesla dug ditches and trenches in the frozen streets of Manhattan for $2 a day just to survive. He was digging the very earth to lay the heavy copper cables he had engineered for Edison. It was a tragic, bitter irony. But the dark trench Edison threw him into would soon become the birthplace of the greatest technological war in human history. Tesla's time in the trenches did not last. In 1887, investors who were amazed by his theories formed the Tesla Electric Company. In a small, newly bought laboratory, Tesla unleashed the monster he had been perfecting in his mind, the polyphase alternating current, $8 system. Unlike DC, alternating current pulsed backward and forward smoothly like a violent ocean wave. Using transformers, Tesla could step the voltage up to hundreds of thousands of volts, shoot it over hundreds of miles through razor-thin wires with zero energy loss, and then step it back down safely to power a home. It was flawless, it was cheap, and it threatened to destroy Edison's entire empire. George Westinghouse walked into that lab and saw the future of the human race. He knew instantly that Tesla's AC system would relegate Edison's DC grid to the scrap heap of history. In a historic deal, Westinghouse bought Tesla's AC patents for $60,000 in cash, stock in his company, and the most lucrative contract ever written, a royalty of $2.50 per horsepower of electricity produced. This single contract was legally bound to make Nikola Tesla the richest man on the face of the earth. But Thomas Edison was not about to go down without it. When Edison realized what Westinghouse had done, he panicked. He had invested millions in DC infrastructure. Unable to defeat Tesla on the battlefield of physics, Edison turned to the dark arts of public relations and psychological warfare. He began a ruthless, terrifying black propaganda campaign to convince the public that alternating current was a lethal weapon, an uncontrollable force of death that would kill their children inside their own living rooms. Edison paid schoolboys a quarter for every stray dog or cat they could catch from the streets. He brought these pets to public squares and electrocuted them using Tesla's alternating current before horrified crowds. He sacrificed calves, stray horses, and eventually, in a grotesque display recorded on early cinematic film, his team electrocuted a rogue circus elephant named Topsy with 6,600 volts of AC power. Edison's message was clear. Alternating current is the current of executioners and slaughterhouses. To permanently brand AC as the death current, Edison secretly funded the invention of the world's first electric chair for death row inmates. He wanted the state to execute criminals using Tesla's system, so the public would associate AC with the worst horrors of human punishment. In August 1890, the first inmate, William Kemmler, was strapped into the chair. The execution was a horrific, botched nightmare. The voltage was too low, and the prisoner was brutally tortured for minutes as the machine smoked. Westinghouse, hearing the news, remarked bitterly, "They could have done better with an axe." Edison had successfully linked Tesla's name with death, but the ultimate showdown was yet to come. The War of the Currents reached its absolute climax at the World's Fair of 1893 in Chicago. This was the event of the century, a global stage where the winning electrical system would win the monopoly over the future. Edison's newly formed conglomerate, General Electric, bid $1 million to light the fair using DC. But Westinghouse, armed with Tesla's efficient AC system, undercut them completely, bidding just $554,000. Westinghouse won the contract. In a fit of petty corporate rage, Edison banned Westinghouse from using his patented glass light bulbs, believing he had left Tesla stranded in the dark. Edison forgot that you cannot trap a mind like Tesla's. Tesla simply bypassed the patent by inventing an entirely new, safer, and brighter bulb. On the evening of May 1st, 1893, President Grover Cleveland stood before a massive crowd of hundreds of thousands, raised his hand, and pressed a single golden button. In that single magnificent moment, Edison's direct current died, and Tesla's alternating current took over the world. The public saw a whole city illuminated safely, beautifully, and cheaply by AC power. Inside the grand hall of the exposition, Tesla became the ultimate superstar. Dressed in an elegant tuxedo and shoes with thick cork soles, he stood before cheering crowds, allowing millions of volts of high-frequency electricity to pass harmlessly through his own body, shooting blue lightning bolts from his fingertips to light unattached glass tubes in his hands. He proved to the world once and for all that his current was not an instrument of death, but the very lifeblood of the future. The spectacular triumph in Chicago shattered all doubts. The United States government turned its eyes toward the greatest untapped source of kinetic energy in North America, Niagara Falls. For centuries, the roaring waters had been a symbol of untamed, terrifying natural power. Now, humanity wanted to harness it. A commission headed by Lord Kelvin was formed to find the best system to convert the falls into electricity. Thomas Edison proposed his direct current system, but Lord Kelvin, witnessing the miracle of Chicago, made the final call. The contract was awarded to Westinghouse and Tesla. They were going to build the world's first true hydroelectric power plant. For Tesla, this was not just another project. It was the realization of a sacred childhood dream. More than 30 years earlier, as a young boy in Croatia, he had stared at a picture of Niagara Falls on his bedroom wall and told his father, "One day I will go to America and drop a giant wheel into those falls to catch the energy of the world." Now, the wheel was being dropped. On November 16, 1896, the massive levers were pulled. The rushing torrents of Niagara slammed into the giant turbines, spinning them at ferocious speeds. The energy of Niagara Falls didn't just crawl a mile like Edison's DC. It flew across state lines. It lit up the entire city of Buffalo and then traveled hundreds of miles to fuel the subways, factories, and homes of New York City. General Electric, Edison's own company, admitted total defeat and was forced to buy a license to use Tesla's alternating current patents. Tesla had won the War of the Currents. He had tamed the wildest waterfall on Earth, and his name was celebrated as the greatest benefactor of the modern era. But this absolute peak of glory was the exact moment his financial ruin began. The War of the Currents had been an incredibly expensive bloodbath. To survive Edison's relentless legal and media attacks, George Westinghouse had poured every dollar he had into the fight. Seeing Westinghouse vulnerable, the ruthless financial vultures of Wall Street, led by J.P. Morgan, moved in for the kill. They began a massive campaign to choke Westinghouse out of the market. The bankers offered Westinghouse a brutal ultimatum: "We will fund your company and save you from bankruptcy, but only if you eliminate your royalty contract with Nikola Tesla." The bankers knew that the $2.50 per horsepower royalty would eventually make Tesla the wealthiest individual in human history, giving a scientist more economic power than Wall Street itself. With a single, effortless tear of his hands, Nikola Tesla voluntarily walked away from the greatest fortune ever accumulated by a human being. He sacrificed his billions, his financial stability, and his future security so that his invention could remain free to serve the human race. He left the office with his head held high, but with empty pockets. He was completely broke, yet his mind was already moving toward a grander, more terrifying frontier. He no longer wanted to send electricity through wires. He was going to turn the entire planet into a wireless battery. Tesla returned to New York with a burning, cosmic ambition. He secured a $150,000 investment from the ultimate king of Wall Street, J.P. Morgan, who believed Tesla was building a simple radio tower to send wireless telegraphs across the Atlantic Ocean to Europe. But Tesla had secretly designed something far more revolutionary. On Long Island, he began construction on the magnificent Wardenclyffe Tower. His true goal was to create the world wireless system. Tesla discovered that the Earth itself was packed with electrical resonance. By plunging massive iron rods deep into the planet's crust, he intended to pump millions of volts into the Earth, shaking its electrical frequencies until the entire globe vibrated. Tesla's dream was absolute, free utopia. He wanted a farmer in Asia to stick a simple copper rod into the ground and pull out electricity to run his tractor. He wanted ships in the middle of the Atlantic to be powered by waves sent through the air. No cables, no monopolies, no coal-burning power plants. Just pure, clean energy pulled straight from the breathing pulse of the planet. But while Tesla was pouring every dollar into his giant tower, a young, ruthlessly competitive Italian engineer was taking a faster, cheaper path. Guglielmo Marconi was using 17 of Nikola Tesla's own primary patents to build a basic radio transmitter. Tesla knew it, but in his supreme intellectual arrogance, he dismissed the threat, saying, "Marconi is a good fellow. Let him continue. He is using 17 of my patents." But on December 12, 1901, the world cracked open. Marconi successfully transmitted the letter S in Morse code across the vast Atlantic Ocean using a simple kite antenna. The globe went wild. Marconi was hailed as the undisputed father of radio, and his stock prices shattered records overnight. When Marconi achieved transatlantic communication with a cheap setup, J.P. Morgan realized he had been deceived by Tesla. Tesla was forced to confess his true intention. "Mr. Morgan, I am not building a simple radio. I am building a system to distribute free, wireless electricity to the entire world." Morgan's cold, financial eyes narrowed. The banker didn't care about human advancement. He cared about control. He looked at Tesla and asked the famous, chilling question that would doom the project. "Mr. Tesla, if anyone can simply stick a rod into the ground to pull out energy, where do I place the meter to charge them for it?" Morgan cut all funding instantly. Not only did he abandon Tesla, but he used his immense influence to blacklist Tesla across every financial house in London and New York. No investor would touch him. Wardenclyffe became a ghost town. The massive tower stood silent, an abandoned monument to a future that Wall Street refused to allow. In 1917, as the United States entered the First World War, the government ordered Wardenclyffe Tower to be dynamited and sold for scrap metal, claiming it could be used by German spies. As the grand wooden tower collapsed into a heap of smoke and splinters, Tesla suffered a profound psychological collapse. The world had broken his dream, and now it was about to break his mind. In the final decades of his life, Nikola Tesla became a phantom in the city he had built. Broke, forgotten, and cast aside by the scientific community, he retreated into the absolute isolation of room 3327 on the 33rd floor of the New Yorker Hotel. His brilliant mind, left with no laboratory to channel its energy, turned inward, deteriorating into severe obsessive-compulsive disorder. He became terrified of germs, washed his hands 30 times a day, and developed an absolute fixation on the number 3 and its multiples. He would not enter a building unless he had walked around it 3 times. The man who once dined with kings and billionaires now had only one group of friends left: the wild pigeons of New York. Tesla would spend hours walking through the parks, collecting injured pigeons and bringing them back to his hotel room to nurse them back to health. He wrote extensively about a specific white female dove that visited him every day. In his journals, the lonely old man wrote, "I loved that pigeon as a man loves a woman, and she loved me. As long as I had her, there was a purpose to my life." In 1922, the dove flew into his room, dying. Tesla claimed that as she breathed her last breath, 2 blinding, intense beams of white light shot from her eyes, illuminating the entire room with a brilliance greater than any electrical lamp he had ever created. Tesla wept, knowing his own life was essentially over. But the wizard had one final terrifying secret to give to the Earth. In the midst of World War II, Tesla announced the invention of a weapon so powerful it could end all wars forever: the Teleforce, or as the sensationalist newspapers called it, the Death Ray. It was a defensive weapon designed to fire a highly concentrated beam of microscopic particles through the open air, capable of melting 10,000 enemy aircraft out of the sky from hundreds of miles away. Tesla offered it to the United States and Great Britain, claiming it would create an invisible, impenetrable wall around any nation, making war physically impossible. The military thought he was a rambling madman, but they weren't taking any chances. On January 7, 1943, at the age of 86, Nikola Tesla's heart stopped beating. The man who had literally harnessed the lightning and illuminated the dark face of the Earth died completely alone, in a rented hotel room, leaving behind nothing but a mountain of unpaid bills and crates of unverified scientific journals. Before his body was even cold, agents from the Federal Bureau of Investigation, FBI, and the government seized every single piece of paper Tesla owned. His work was classified as top secret. The government brought in a brilliant engineer from MIT, Dr. John G. Trump, to evaluate the papers. Dr. Trump issued an official report stating that Tesla's notes were purely speculative and held no practical value for the war. Yet the government refused to release them. For decades, Tesla's core notes on wireless power, weather modification, and particle beam weapons remained buried deep within government vaults. To this day, parts of his legacy remain hidden from the public eye, raising the eternal question: what did the wizard actually discover? Nikola Tesla did not just predict the future, he literally forged it with his bare hands. Every time you turn on a light, charge a wireless device, use a remote control, or look at a radar screen, you are utilizing the thoughts of a man who sacrificed everything he had so that humanity could step out of the shadows. He died a pauper, but he left the world infinitely rich. Decades ago, as he stood broke and mocked by the corporate titans of his time, Tesla looked at the horizon and said with absolute certainty, "The present is theirs. The future, for which I have really worked, is mine." The future has arrived, Nikola, and it is blindingly bright. You were, and will always be, the last true wizard.